What's up, everyone, and welcome to FAQ140. Have you seen this new asshole? Yes, this is a Solar A 1.8D deck. Look at the back. Look at this neck. Holding something like this, real wide like this, feels familiar somehow. So yeah, obviously, Evertune bridge on this one, Duncan Solar pickups, you know, locking tuner, stainless steel frets. Yeah, baby. If you're a baby, you will want to own this guitar. Just saying. And now that I plugged that guitar, and now I don't have to play 8-string ever again. What's up, everyone? So nice to see you. You know, yesterday I was feeling a little bit shitty. You know, I had a headache and, you know, Ola, poor Ola. I was just sitting there feeling sorry about myself. But today, I feel like the headache is almost gone. And I feel like, yeah, it's a new day. I'm happy. I'm ready to go plug myself. Will it mug? You're all probably intrigued about the title of this video. Is this the last FAQ video? And yes, it is actually the absolute last FAQ video on this channel. Don't be totally alarmed. It's basically just me renaming the series. I just want to take away... That's a burp. I just want to take the focus away from, you know, me answering a shit ton of questions for a full video. So I'm renaming the whole video series to Sunday with Ola. So original, made it up all by myself. Now with me removing FAQ out of the question, no pun, I can basically do whatever I want in the video. And I have plans for this. I'm planning to make it more of a video where I still answer your questions, okay? Some of the questions, I'll pick out a couple for every video and answer them. But I'm also going to talk about, you know, new music, current events, basically whatever I want, and just have more segments happening. More like a short little daily show. And I think for the long-time viewers, this might be a very needed change. And if you're a new viewer and you just started watching my FAQs, you can always go back to the first one and then watch 140 of them. That's probably a couple weeks worth of you know, content right there for you to watch. But yeah, so I'm switching things up. I don't think you'll notice that much of a change other than the segment being a little bit weirder. But since this is the last FAQ, I'm still gonna answer some questions. But I still urge you to send in questions in the comment sections, or if there's any other current event that you want me to bring up and talk about, go ahead and write that in the comment section. Okay, everybody happy? You happy over there? You camera, and that camera is also happy. Let's just start. Aaron plays rock and roll. Hi Ola, could you please recommend either a reasonably priced tube head or a distortion pedal to go in the front end of an amplifier? I'm trying to get back into playing metal, but I don't have any gear which can get that glorious metal sound. Congrats on 500k subs, by the way, totally deserved. Thank you so much. Reasonably priced tube head or a distortion pedal to go in front end of an amplifier. So I usually tell people to look into like the PRS MT15, which I think is a great metal amplifier. It's not that much. I mean, for a tube amplifier, it's a steal, in my opinion. There are less expensive amplifiers heads out there, like the Boss Katana head, for instance, which is crammed with effects and, you know, different boosts and all that. You can get a really good sound out of one of those heads. But if I would go with a distortion pedal, I would probably get like a Rev G3 or even like the Horizon Devices Apex preamp. For Dimebag tones today, I think the Apex preamp is as close as can be. Like a Rev G3 or Apex preamp, probably. There you go. Karis GTR, I really like the rhythm sound of your new single. What amper plugin do you use? That's a great question. Let me call Ermin Hamidovic. Ermin mixed and mastered and reamped my single, so we're gonna call him and ask him what's happening on there.
All right, how do I call this guy? Skype? Ermin.
Oh!
Hey.
Hello. There it is. What's up, buddy? Oh, you were not totally prepared for this, right? You were just like, oh, you know, Ola's just calling you. You did not clean up your room before or anything like that. You just sat there totally ready with a good lighting in your face and...
You're a good friend like that, man. You just kind of spring these things. I mean, I'm totally not prepared at all, so...
There's actually a reason why you have a really good lighting in your room, because I can see it in the background. It's that gaming rig of yours. You're doing like a racing YouTube channel now, right?
I am shifting industries 100%, man. I'm bailing on the music scene. Id broke my heart. They broke Mick's heart, man. And no, I'm not bailing, but I am starting a secondary thing just for fun. Sim racing is really awesome, especially with the lockdown and everything. It's a really cool way to keep yourself sane, and turns out you can turn it into a second career if you just do it enough.
Holy shit, yeah. I mean, I can imagine you sitting there 60 years old playing racing games still on YouTube. That would be cool. I have a question. You're in the FAQ right now. Sorry, I didn't say that. But yes, there's from Karis GTR. I really like the rhythm sound of your new single. What amp or plugin do you use?
Well, I totally wasn't prepared for this, man. But like, ta-da!
Oh,
I don't know if you guys can see that in the background, but that's the Marshall JVM. That was the thing. I mean, you guys after Deets? Are you after Chains? Like, how geeky are we getting with this?
let's just go and I'll cut it down to something fathomable.
Well, so the Marshall JVM, it's something that, well, I mean, you had on your channel many, many years ago. I remember you playing through it back before you actually spoke to anybody and had like a personality on camera. So this is going back a while.
Exactly.
The JVM is an awesome amp. It's always handled your playing amazingly well. It's got a lot of bloom, and it's somewhere in between traditional and hyper modern, and it's got that really, I don't know, really nice all-round character that pairs well with passive pickups. So clearly it was going to be choice number one for Ola Goes kind of hard rock.
That's weird because, you know what? I've never been a Marshall person. And I've always considered when I play a Marshall, it's like, you know, it's not nearly there. It's cool, but I've always been more drawn to mesas and stuff like that. But as usual with, you know, with the solo material and all that, I've been kind of like, okay, you know, Ermin do his thing, and, you know, let him build the mix that way. So for this one, I was like, you know, you do your thing, I just let you do that, and I just take the back seat in this one.
I was fully expecting you to just reject it. I kind of did it because I had a spare afternoon. I'm like, yeah, I haven't fired up the amps in years, so why not actually try it out? But I was fully expecting you to just go, nah, screw it, my neural tones are better. Which, I mean, they were amazing. The neural plugins are always great, but sometimes, you know, with the real amp, you get something a little bit different.
Yes.
And obviously they don't have a JVM model, so I couldn't just kind of plug that in and go. So, yeah, it was a proper reamp. And also, we used Misha's pedal. Misha's pedal. So it suits your playing really, really well. Actually tightens up the JVM, gives it a bit more of a modern edge. So you can control the amount of tightness with the attack knob, and then kind of tailor everything else to taste and kind of get it to where you want it to be. So it's a bit of a different flavor to your traditional tube screamer, which tends to kind of fluff out the tones possibly a little bit too much.
Right. Do you feel like it's a challenge to balance the aggressiveness of a sound for like a project like this, where it's, you know, chunky rhythm guitars in one point, and then in the next segment there's just, you know, picking styles, bigger chords and stuff like that. Is it hard to balance that, like in a guitar tone? Do you have any tricks?
100%, man. Yeah, normally. So the funny thing about the Marshall is it has like 12 completely distinct modes, all of which are completely usable. So for the average person, this amp can be a complete nightmare if you don't know what you're chasing. And normally, in your case, if you're playing like some chuggy riffs or like slow mid-pace stuff, I can pull up one of the orange/vintage kind of channels and one of those classic rock kind of sounds. They sound fantastic. But the moment you start getting into the kind of tremolo picked stuff, it falls apart completely. So actually trying to find the right setting for that was a little bit of a nightmare. It's a good thing I've been doing this for about 15 years. Otherwise, it would have been a long, long afternoon. So, yeah,
that's
100%
cool.
It can be tricky.
Dude, thank you so much for answering the question. Ermin on my FAQ. That's cool, huh? This is going to be the last FAQ, by the way, ever.
What?
Leave an order. My dearest Ola, you said before that Jeff Loomis maybe doesn't get the recognition he deserves for his riffs. What are some of your favorite Nevermore riffs? Love and farts. Yes, I've said this a fair amount of times. I mean, obviously, a lot of people praise Jeff Loomis for being an incredible lead player, because he is an incredible lead player. Probably one of the best in the world right now. But his riffing is what got me into Nevermore in the first place. I mean, I heard Dead Heart in Dead World. I mean, riffs from songs like River Dragon Has Come. Do I have a guitar? Do I need to bring out a guitar? I guess I do. No, I have an 8-string guitar right here. I can play it on that. I think it's played on a 7-string, but who cares? Today the birds sang in the sky. I just started getting into 7-strings and I found out about Nevermore, and you know, and that particular album was just filled with 7-string riffs. I mean, like Inside Four Walls, you know. there's just tons and tons of riffs on that album, and you know, the coming Nevermore albums as well. They're just really, really incredible. So if you're into 7-string guitar, Dead Heart in a Dead World, Enemies of Reality, The Godless Endeavor, all those albums are crammed with really good 7-string guitar riffs. So, and I can say for sure that these albums have definitely inspired me in some of my riff writing throughout the year. So he's been a very big inspiration for me. Good, huh? Thank you. Reaper016, hola, I'm starting to look like a bot, constantly repeating my question, hoping to get it answered. Haha, hope you're having an awesome day. Okay, the reason why I'm bringing up this question is that this guy has been posting this question in probably like, you know, 30 FAQ videos. In every FAQ videos, he comes back to ask this question. He's been really consistent with watching my FAQ, so I really want to answer this guy now. And just remember that when you ask a question and if I don't answer it, it doesn't mean that I hate you or anything like that, but I see a lot of people are getting mad because I don't answer, you know, their specific question. Just remember that I get 1,000 questions in every FAQ, okay? So have a little understanding that I might not read every one of them, okay? And I guess it will be less of that because these are not going to be FAQs anymore. It's going to be Sunday with Ola. Remember that, okay? Recently you made a video about Enki cases, which are great, but for the rest of the mortals are a little bit out of our reach. I would like to ask which case, model and brand if possible, would you recommend for storing, traveling with your solar guitars individually? I'm more interested in the V and G shapes, but I guess the rest of the viewers could be interested on the other ones too. So I don't necessarily have a brand that I cling on to when it comes to individual cases. I don't really travel that much with individual cases, so I just have the original case, you know, the standard cases for, you know, storing my guitars. But for V's in particular, I'm gonna go get a case right now and we'll take a look at it, okay? Oh shit, I forgot to turn this lamp on. It's my hair light. There you go. All right, so I just brought out one V case for you right here. Look at this. So this is an SKB V case, and this is good enough for traveling, I would say. If you want to check in your V guitar, this is a really good case right here. So we're gonna open it up. Not too often I bring out a case like this, but I'll do it just in this case, okay? And it looks like this. So these V cases are available like all over the world. The only thing about them is that they're not custom made. But what I do with this guitar, as you can see here, it's still a lot of room left. That just shows how slim the Solar V guitar is. But what I do is I just put padding here on the places right here, so it sits great. I think the most important thing about you know, flying with guitars is to fixing your guitars. This also goes for when you sell a guitar and when you ship it to someone. Make sure the guitar is fixed within the case. I think that's probably the most important thing about shipping a guitar. That's also the case for, no pun. That's also the case for, you know, flying with the guitar. So make sure the headstock is not bumping into the top here. Just fix it down here somewhere in the middle so it doesn't move, and then you're good to go. This case right here, I would probably travel with it. I think I've actually traveled with it because it has a fair bit of dings on it. Yeah, this is a sturdy ass case. I like this. SKB, everyone. Not sponsored. Just a fan. Jam Patrick, for me, guys like myself are a dying breed. You know, the album lovers. People don't have the stamina to listen to the full albums anymore. I started to release a single once a month or so, and a 4 to 5 song EP once a year. What do you think of it? And this raises a great question right here. You know, there's a lot of people like yourself out there, including me, who loves listening to albums. But we are sort of a dying breed because the younger generation that grew up, they grew up with Spotify and that way of listening to music, or even like going on YouTube to listen to singles and whatnot. So the album format is not, you know, as important as it was back when we grew up. You know, the young generation, they didn't go to record stores and, you know, bought an album because, you know, it looked cool or whatever. I mean, it's a different era now. And I think the way you're doing it, to release a single once a month and a 4 to 5 song EP once a year, I think that's a great approach if you're an up-and-coming artist. I think I talked a little bit about this before, but if you crammed everything into one album and released that album, that's just one piece of news that will be gone in 2 weeks. If you scatter it out, make more pieces of news, there's a better chance of you know,
actually reaching out to more people. So I definitely think that the approach that you're having is an approach that a lot of up-and-coming bands and musicians should take if, you know, they want to have a chance of getting more recognition. Good for you if you're anal about having an album format. I love that. But I think there's a bigger chance of you going somewhere if you scatter out news rather than just have one piece of news on an album. Now, this tip does not concern the established bands who continue to release albums. They already have an establishment, so they can put out albums, you know, more seldom, and they still have a fan base and a growing fan base. But I mean, for you, you need to find an audience, and I think releasing singles and short EPs, I think that's probably the best approach for this right now. You know, when, you know, the music industry is just saturated with music all over the place. Albums are being dropped every single day, and I think you have a bigger chance if you scatter out your singles a little bit. So there you go. Good question, I like that. Chinese Stokes Band. Ola, if Dimebag was still alive and you had a chance to do a coffee with Ola with Dime, what would be the top 3 questions you would ask him? Congrats on your 500k subscribers, worshippers. You rock, keep it up. Thank you so much, beautiful people. This is a really tough question, to be honest. And I think one of my questions that I think a lot of young people probably will want to know. I mean, there's stories about how Dimebag, you know, started to play like he did. I remember I've seen this mentioned a bunch of times, but basically what happened is that during 6 months when he was growing up, he was basically, you know, living guitar playing. He sat, you know, every day, every night practicing guitar for 6 months. And he came out of that bedroom and he was amazing. And, you know, it would be kind of cool to pick on his mind about that. I don't think I've seen any interviews or any, you know, topics where people have discussed this other than, you know, he went into his bedroom for 6 months. So I think that would be a real legitimate question. As a lot of you Pantera guys know, Dimebag was constantly filming everything around, you know, Pantera and touring and you know, the whole process about being in a metal band. He did that for so long, and they released home videos, and you know, he did even some vlog things, you know, even though it was before vlogging was a thing. I would say he would probably be a perfect YouTuber. He was basically on the forefront with a lot of this shit. I think YouTube would have been a perfect platform for Dimebag. I mean, I guess that's not a question, but it's more of that's just something I thought about. And then the last question would be, what is his favorite Dimebag guitar that they made, Dean or Washburn, whatever, that he was the most happy with, playing-wise, his favorite guitar. We know that he used his Dean from Hell a lot, and you know, that guitar has been played to shit. But other than that, what was his favorite playing guitar, or like the guitar he was most proud about during the Washburn and Dean years? I guess that would be it. Sucks, because we're not gonna know, man. That sucks right there. Leathermouth. Hello, Ola. What's the best, most helpful criticism that you've been given in regard to your own playing? Thanks. Great question. And let me bring a guitar. So, you know, when you play guitar for a lot of years, you know, you kind of fall into the same type of playing, or, you know, the same licks that you've always been doing, and you're doing them pretty good. You know, like just noodling, basically. When you sit around and noodle. Noodling is all right, but the only way to kind of get better is to challenge yourself. And I always thought that as, you know, the point where I think I'm getting better, you know, where my fingers don't line up and it feels like really like a nuisance to play. That's where I feel like, you know, I'm probably developing the most. So I think the most helpful criticism I've gotten is that you should challenge yourself and, you know, play those things that you think are awkward. And, you know, you might sit like, this is awkward, let me just play like you normally do. But if you challenge yourself to go out of those, you know, I have this economy picking or sweep thing that I'm doing right now that's, you know, when I started practicing it last week, it was really with my brain a little bit. And when you get to that point where you're like, you really have to think about how you're playing and, you know, synchronizing your right hand and your left hand. It could be a passage that's really hard to play. But when you challenge yourself and you feel like, oh shit, it's not working, that's where you have to stick and kind of work it out and make it happen. And that will help you improve on your playing. That's what I feel. So I've been sitting with this thing for a good while. Like economy picking and sweeping thing.
And, you know, at first it was really challenging and I couldn't play it fast at all. But, you know, I've just been practicing and practicing and practicing. I feel that I've gotten a lot better on playing that. And then when I stopped doing that, after I played that and practiced that for a while, I can feel the rest of my playing being slightly better. So I just think it's important to challenge yourself with using different techniques and, you know, just throw yourself out there. That's the best way of improving, in my opinion, just like it is with everything else. Even like my YouTube videos, I always say this, that, you know, you just have to start making the YouTube videos and, you know, start talking. It will be awkward at first, but you'll learn by grinding and grinding and grinding. Just throw yourself out there. And I think that is probably the best advice I can give. Not sure if anyone has given that advice to me, but it's just something I've learned along the way through life, basically. Thank you. Great question. Steamed Hams. Yo, Ola, what's your opinion on building a guitar rig? Should you upgrade slowly in many iterations, or is it better to just go all out and purchase knowing that product is top of the line equipment, especially in these times? I've been trying to save up my money as best as I can, so the gear that I'm looking at currently is on the cheaper end, but I plan to swap these out later for nicer pieces to replace them with. But as you well know, little purchases like that tend to add up. Any advice? Thanks in advance. This is a great question. And you know what? I think I have a really good amount of good questions today. Too bad, because it's the last FAQ. I mean, there's one thing about, you know, buying a full rig altogether. You know, a overdrive, head, cabinet, you know, delay pedal, and a good guitar with good pickups. If you buy that as a package, you're not going to understand what does what in the rig. So I definitely think building a rig with smaller pieces is better for you, because you will learn the equipment that you're buying. I mean, if you buy an overdrive, you know, to work with your, if you have a Fender combo amp or whatever you're using, I mean, you get that one pedal, then you sit down with that and just tweak and tweak and tweak. You will learn that pedal. If you buy everything at once, you're not gonna learn in the same way. I'd rather you sit down with one piece of equipment and work on that for a good while, and then maybe you can upgrade the amplifier or upgrade the pickups or whatever you want to do. So you learn to understand what the individual things are doing to your sound. I think that's very important more than anything else. And it will also help you to, you know, find your own sound and tone, because then you know exactly like, okay, I have to shape this overdrive into this specific amplifier. And, you know, not because Ola told me to do this and this, but, you know, because for my situation right here, my picking style, you know, my guitar. So if you're still in a search for a good rig for you, I think this is probably the best approach. So you can find yourself in a situation where you know exactly what you want, you know how to get out of it from your equipment, and you just have better control of your stuff, basically. Great. Apocalypse Doll. Ola, with an exclamation point. I'm fairly new here, so maybe you've answered this already. Obviously, we love to hear you share your guitar knowledge, but as a vocalist, I'd like to know, who are your top 3 favorite vocalists of all time? I think I've answered this before, and since I don't really carry a list on me with my favorite vocalists, so I might have answered something different, I don't know, but I think on top of my list is probably Chris Cornell. For the simple reason that, one, his voice is incredible. He's done so many amazing songs with his solo album, Soundgarden, you know, Audioslave, and it's just a really touching voice. And a little tip for you, if you're into that type of voice that Chris Cornell is doing, Richie Kotzen has an incredible voice like that. And that's totally unfair, because he's like the best guitar player in the world, and he also has a voice that's almost the best in the world. That's not fair, man. So if you dug Chris Cornell, you'll definitely dig Richie Kotzen and his voice. And obviously I'm a big fan of Phil Anselmo and, you know, that style of vocals right there. Mostly because that's what I grew up on. You know, back in the day, he could do really good clean singing and, you know, raspy voices. And it's just like a whole package. I love when singers can deliver a full package of different types of, you know, flavors in vocals, I would say. That impresses me the most. Russell Allen, Symphony X. I don't know, man. Who else? I mean, there's a bunch of Swedish singers that I really enjoy, you know, like Daniel Gildenlöv of Pain of Salvation has an incredible voice. And yeah, Jeff Scott Soto. Yes, Jeff Scott Soto, obviously. Talisman, and also Sons of Apollo now with Mike Portnoy.
So there's a bunch of really good vocalists that I really enjoy like that. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards the raspier vocalists, you know, like Jeff Scott Soto and Chris Cornell. It's just more up my alley, you know. Evil Gimp, greetings and salutations, Ola. I've been wondering for quite some time what your favorite horror movie is. What one made you crap your pants? Okay, so back in the day, I was renting a lot of horror movies, and but more like splatter movies, you know, Evil Dead and Bad Taste, for instance, and shit like that. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies. I mean, I enjoy them while I watch them. There is one recent movie that I watched that was like, it's not really a horror movie, it's more like a bullying movie, and it made me sick to my stomach, and that was Eden Lake. It's about a couple that gets bullied by kids, basically, and that made me so uncomfortable watching. I just don't watch movies that often anymore. You know, I don't read books, I don't watch movies. You know, I sit and play Apex. Oh. Brandon Sells, howdy there, Ola. Since the past spring, what events have you experienced that have not only held the most meaning to you, but have also given you something to inspire you for the future? Side non-question, have an epic day every day. Oh, thank you so much, Brandon Sells, Random Skills Project. The pinnacle of this past year was definitely visiting Dimebag's house and checking out Dimebag's guitars. I mean, it's going to be the pinnacle of the past 20 years, I think. I mean, if you take away the family things, you know, getting kids and, you know, things happening in the world and getting a wife and all that, going to Dimebag's house sealed the deal for me, man. I still cannot believe I went there and that I was holding a bunch of his guitars. And I see the video today, it's like, that's not me. That's, yeah, it's so weird to watch that. Man, so weird. Yeah, so that's actually the FAQ for today, and it's the last one. But don't be afraid of change, okay? I think it's time to move from the FAQ and make something else. But I will still release videos every Sunday, you know, same time. I'll probably still make a premiere. Premiere Squad, by the way, right now. Premiere Squad, yay! I'm also here, premiering. So that's cool. I'm just trying to change it up a little bit. I mean, we all need to change. So there you go. If you have any questions, though, I will keep on answering questions, just fewer next time, okay? So put them in the comment section. Thank you so much to all of my beautiful members and to all of you subscribers as well. Thank you so much. And also, if you haven't, you can still pre-order my vinyl, my 7-inch vinyl for Sun and the Moon. It's going to be up on iTunes and Spotify this coming Friday, the 15th. Okay? Good. So guys, thank you so much for watching. See you soon.